Hello, and welcome to the Weird Waves podcast. My name is Taylor, and this is episode 57. On this week's podcast, we are talking to Lucas Nardi. He is a surfer and yoga instructor from Brazil, but currently based in Bali. This episode has been a long time coming. We received information about Lucas from one of our guests, episode 22, Delano, and we kind of been going back and forth. Then the lockdown happened. Then he didn't have internet. And we finally got to record this podcast. And this is a very crazy one. Lucas has had a very interesting life. But what happened to him when the coronavirus lockdown started is just... It could be a movie, honestly. It's just mind-blowing. And it really goes to show how much this virus situation has impacted surf culture, the way that surfers handle situations like this. We're so free. We're so used to being able to travel wherever we want. And when we're suddenly not able to, it really does affect the
Okay,
culture as a whole.
cool. So how are you?
I'm great. Finally, it will happen, right?
I know. Oh my gosh. I was telling Andre, like, this is the podcast that has never been fully scheduled.
I think I can remember when we start talking about it. It's been a while.
It was before coronavirus.
Yeah, way before. I can't remember where I was, but I remember you did with one guy from Brazil, and then he advised for me to do it, and yeah.
Yeah. Danilo from in the middle of
Yeah, the guy that surfs in the river.
uh-huh. That's right. Yeah. He was saying you do he was telling us about the Mentawai's like charter that you were doing.
Yeah, exactly. I have a surf charter. I work in a surf charter, so I have this boat that we make surf trips there. Uh, like for me, it was a big change in my life. This is something recent in my life. We started first year as operating in 2018. So before that, originally I'm a yoga teacher, so I used to have my yoga school, and yeah, and then a change happened in my life, which I'm glad that happened. Actually, really.
So what your yoga studio was that in? Are you Brazilian originally?
Yeah, I'm from the south of Brazil, a city called Porto Alegre, which is the capital of the southeast state in
Okay.
Brazil. So we have border with the state has border with Uruguay, Argentina. So it's
Oh, okay.
share a little bit of the culture with them. We have mate, gaucho, which is the person who born in my state, is the man from the countryside that barbecue and deals with the agriculture or with uh, growing cows and sheep and you know but yeah, my town, it's away from the shore. It's not on the coast. So first beach, it's around 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, 1 hour 15 minutes, I think, driving. And then my family has a place like a beach house that is kind of like 4 hours, 4 hours and a half, 5 hours from my city. So for me, surf was I lived there like for almost 2 years when I was young, when I was 15. But then before after that, it was surf for me was something that I used to do on weekends. Yeah. So, but I'm passionate about surfing, so all money that I had that I saved, I put on surf trips and my. I don't know if I should tell the whole thing or
Yeah. Just keep going. It's interesting.
okay. Yeah, but so the thing about surf For me, it was something that when I was really young, I used to do with my brother and another friend. Because my grandfather and my grandmother, they had this. They still have. My grandmother passed away, but they used to have this house at Florianopolis that's more well known on the surf. And I used to go on the summers, and then we were there, and then I had an uncle that was always pushing us to surf. So then we started, and then I was around 6 years old. I think I had an accident surfing because I cut my leg really bad. I had like 90 stitches.
90? Oh my God.
Like 90,
Yeah, 90,
90.
90. That's a lot.
Yeah. And I was super small. I put my whole hand in the hole. It was weird. It was a crazy situation. And then I kind of started bodyboarding for a while. And I think it was good because I started to see the wave different, see the barrels a little bit more.
Because you were
And
like
then,
lower down.
yeah, and I used to surf this small beach break that the waves were kind of like small ledges. So I was there watching the curve of the wave. And then, yeah, and then I heard and I started to see because this uncle of mine, he had a surfing magazine. So he always was always talking about stories and everything. And then he used to talk about Hawaii, which was a place that I was always dreaming about, and especially Pipeline. And then I started to see pictures when I was still young. So my whole dream was to surf Pipeline, to be able to surf Pipeline. That was my dream. And then I read on magazines about the Pipe Masters and everything. So whenever I had a chance, I, I travel trying to become better on barrels, especially on my backside, or one day be able to surf Pipeline. Yeah, then when I was 15, I moved to the beach house from my parents, and I stayed there for almost 2 years. I was living by myself, and it's like super small town. At that time, there was nothing, not even phone. I mean, you could have phones, but at that time, the phone companies were ruled, run by the government, so it was really hard to get one number. And then, and anyway, my mom used to cry every time she was there when she was like leaving me because I was young and but I wanted to become a surfer, but I never did as like I was supposed to go on weekends to contests, but on the weekends my friends from my hometown used to come to visit me and to surf. And then I didn't want to leave the place to go to a place like to compete, I never liked it to compete that much. And then yeah, and then after I finished school, I didn't want. I knew that I couldn't stay there, and then I moved to Australia for trying to like do something in a place that was closer to the beach, and I heard many things about there, but it didn't work out. I was 17, and I tried to. At that time, I was already practicing yoga, and actually, I was already like before I leave, I did the teacher training. So I was young, but I already got the certificate and everything. But my English was awful, so it didn't work out. I worked in buildings for a while. Then the idea was to save money and come to Bali. So then it was the first time that I came,
And what
and
year is this?
this was '99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had like 17, And so it was completely different from today. So people like Uluwatu, the whole Bukit was completely empty. It was just like small farms, few warungs on the cliffs. Like Uluwatu had some warungs, and then Bingin, Dreamland, where they have like today there is a golf course. It used to be just like a cliff, and we used like people stay in Kuta and drive all the way every day to surf. So it was a magic experience and like the most perfect waves that I ever surfed so far, like Kadang, and then we did a trip to Desert Point, and it was something that really opened my eyes to what surf was, what real surf was like, how it was to like really surf a barrel, how it was to see a wave breaking over a dry reef, and all these things that I was always like watching on movies. Because when I was living in at my beach house in Ibiraquera is the name of the place. I don't know if you remember the place where they used to run the city, a place called Praia da Vila.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, like Nick Fanny and Kelly won the world title there. But anyway, it's close to Florianopolis. But so at that time, I was living there. My one friend came to live with me for a while, and he had this TV with the VCR. So we watch a lot of surf movies, and I fell in love with Tom Curran style. And then he had all those trips to Indo in the Search 2, and a few other like Pharaoh Kindle, and then searching for Tom Curran. So I was always dreaming about it. And then 99 was this moment where I kind of like see a bit, only Bali and then desert, Sumbawa. Anyway, then I left and I start to live in cities again. And then I started to work as a yoga teacher. It was 99 when I started. And I moved to São Paulo. That is a really big city in Brazil. Really like busy place. And I had no friends there. And the people that I met, they didn't surf. So it was a moment where I was a little bit away from surf. And then eventually in 2001, I came back to my hometown to work as yoga teacher still in another place. And then I met like I already met them before, but we started to work together and hanging out together, two friends. They were a couple at that time, and they loved surf, loved to be on the beach as well. So it was a magical moment because I came back to my hometown, and then I met a lot of people that were more into surf. Because before that, my friends were more like, I had a lot of friends that like to surf, but most they like more soccer. So and we were young, we didn't have cars, so when the weekends were a little bit hard to go to the beach, like by bus. So this moment was good. I was like every single weekend we drive to the beach. It was a pretty cool time. And then and then I started to really dream about going to Hawaii and surf pipeline. And then went to I stopped coming to Indo for a while, but then I went to Chile, to Arica, to surf El Gringo. I went to Puerto Escondido. I went to another spot in Brazil called Fernando de Noronha. So I was trying to. And then eventually I went to Hawaii first time. I was really unlucky because the season that I was there the first time, after I heard that was, I think it's until now, it's considered the worst season ever. It
For
was,
pipe?
it was like 2007, 2008. And it was weird because I was there, and I was like, when the waves will be, when really good waves will come. I was there for a month, 45 days. And I like saw pipeline, like decent pipeline, I think twice. It was a weird, like a lot of rain, a lot of onshore winds.
It was
Yeah,
so bad that people still talk about how bad it was.
yeah, kind of. Realized because I had no reference. I had no idea how powerful it could be. And the pipeline that year, for you to have an idea, it was the year that Beat Derbich won, like making turns at off the wall. That's how bad it was. So then, yeah, it wasn't that good. But and then I start to go a lot to Chile, south of Chile, explore a few places there, like uncrowded, really cold but really good waves. A small town that we found. Like first, I went to Arica to the north, and then Iquique, and then I went to Pichilemu, and then we heard about this wave that looks like Indo, and then we start to travel to that place and score really good. These days it's more crowded, but at that point was not so, like it was completely uncrowded and a lot of left hands, but not so much for barrels. So then 2011 I came back to Indo and it was a completely different place, like in a different world. Like you couldn't recognize the Bukit, the Uluwatu, the whole place was different, Padang and everything.
Because it grew so much.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then I was still trying to improve my surf. Then I went, yeah, then so every vacation that I had, every money that I had, I was always trying to go somewhere else. And then I remember one day I used to do, like, I was so, I don't know, into trips and everything. So I used to sometimes when I had like a free time during the day research about like tickets or call agent, like travel agents, to talk with them about tickets. And then this one day, it was 2011 still, and I called this guy, hey, you have anything good? And he said, actually, Tahiti, we have a ticket really good. And then I bought the ticket with some other friends, and we went to Surf Chopu, which was one of the best
Wow.
experiences. Yeah, it was really amazing. And we didn't, like, there was one big day. It was, I don't know, solid 8 foot. Not nothing crazy like you see these days, but for me it was super special. But at that time, I think it wasn't so popular, so there wasn't too many people there, or the people that were there they weren't so interested in days like 3 to 5 foot. So we surfed many days, like in the morning and at the end of the day, like glass days, nobody out there, just me and 3 friends, which was really, really good. It was a special trip. And then eventually, so my cousin, he's like became partner in a boat here. And then I came with him. So first time I went to Mentawai by land. It was 2011. And then I came with him by boat in 2014. And then 2015 I came back. And then at 2017 I organized a whole group with just my friends. It was the first and the only time that I like blocked the whole trip just for my friends. It was really great. It was a weird year in Indo because Qatar Airlines, they did this massive sale for Bali that the ticket usually goes from, like, I don't know, 1,200, 1,500, 1,700. And at this year, if you buy, like, there was different prices, but if you buy like tickets, it was 500 US.
Whoa.
So so the whole Bali was residents. It was crazy. So Brazilians that year more than ever. I was like a little bit embarrassed about what I saw the line, but anyway, we could come like all friends. It was the funniest and funniest trip ever. We had such a good time and we scored really good. And just before we got into the boat, just the trip to come was an adventure. It took like us 4 days before the boat trip starts. So then, when I was getting like the day that we are going to departure, my cousin said, we're gonna sell the boat because we are buying a new one, and I think you should buy. And I'm like, geez, there's no way. I have my school. My school is like I'm settled there. Like I'm really on a good time, good position, making some money. Like the school is running good and everything. And then, but it was something that really got my attention. I was the whole trip thinking about, and yeah, maybe because I was living in Brazil. To have an operation so far from home and you have no idea about how it works, about the laws, about the language. But then he starts to talk more and more, and eventually one guy, like I had this really good friend Fernando, and start to talk to him like, hey Fernando, we really love this lifestyle, it's our chance. And then at the time I was talking with this friend that wasn't a friend for a long time, but he's a guy that is really passionate about surf, just like me, Diego. And then the moment that I told him, he was in already. He already started to spreadsheets to calculate everything and how much it costs and how much we're gonna spend and how much we can make money, blah blah blah. And then I got excited about it, and we really start to talk about it. And then Gustavo, the last partner that came in, he comes from another place, and he's like a video maker. He was already super into surf. He did like many surf movies. That was his surf movies were they are really like famous in Brazil. And then he did a bunch of TV shows. So he was more into the professional surfing world and this kind of thing. So for was good. And then he said, yeah, I'm really excited as well. And then yeah, eventually happened. So 2014, 18, I sold my school. My initial plan was not to sell the school because it was a place that I love. So my idea was 6 months here, 6 months there. But then things went in a way that, yeah, I sold it, and it was a crazy stuff at that time. I just moved to Indo without knowing the language, and then straight to Padang to fix the boat, to be able to be ready for the first season. And then here we are, like during this 2 season, a lot of things happen. Like for me, I always say that every trip is like a lifetime because it's like days that they are so intense. There is so many things happening, and inside of a boat, I like to say that is a life of improvisation because like people from Indo, they are super creative and they fix problems and they solve things in the most creative way. They don't have too much resources, and I don't know, somehow they figure out how to solve the thing. So it's been like a super rich life full of experiences, like a lot of really unforgettable days of surfing, a lot of good barrels, a lot of new friends, good people, and like good and bad stuff happen. The first trip I don't know if you want to ask me something. I'm just talking.
I
No.
mean, it's super interesting. No, I think it's like with the boat trips, it's kind of like not every surfer can do that, you know? So it's super interesting to hear about it from the inside because, at least from my perspective, it's like the ultimate dream. You charter the boat, you've got all your best friends on the boat, and you're getting handpicked to take to the waves. So to hear it from your perspective, it's super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is like at the same time, like it's a work as well. So there is like I always say that when the boat is at the channel, anchor at the channel, the wind is offshore, there is sun, and the waves are good, and the guests are happy, and then you are in the best. Like you cannot be in the best place, you know, in your life. But sometimes for this situation to happen, you need to deal with a lot of things, a lot of small problems that keep happening the whole time, all the way. Like, for example, there is this really awful experience that it was my first trip. So I came to Indo March 2018, and in April, mid-April, was the first trip of our boat, like first trip from the company. And then we did some renovations at the boat. So after a month, like kind of like living in Padang for a month, which is a city that has nothing to do, you get a little bit crazy there. I came to Bali once, and then I did a trip, but I was like super high expectations. So the guests arrived. People travel like 3 days to get there. We had this professional surfer from Brazil, like Bruno Santos, on the boat, and there was a good swell coming. So at night when we were like about to departure, I don't know exactly what happened. It was like the captain that did something wrong, but it wasn't the highest tide. So I was doing the meeting, so we do the meeting in the beginning of the trip, and it was my first. It was my first one. I was there talking, and then the boat, instead of leaving, so we were at the channel, the harbor. It's a channel, and then goes to the ocean. The boat stopped, and I was like, "There's something weird." But I was talking and talking, and then I finished the thing and went out there, and then I was like, what happened? Gianto is the guy that is our business partner, and now he's working in land, but he used to be the cooker, like the chef on the.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, Gianto, what happened? Oh no, probably there is some trash, there is rubbish, because the channel is full of trash. It's really sad, they just throw everything on it. And then there is probably rubbish on the propeller. So there is one guy coming with like to dive and to check. So then I was like, okay, we are about to go, and people were, oh, we are leaving. Yeah, we are leaving. And then the guy dives. I don't know, I went inside to get something, and then a guest came and said, hey man, there is a bad situation. There is something wrong. And I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, we are not able to leave tonight. And I was like, what? So I come out of the boat, and the guy said, the propeller is broke. The shaft, which is the piece of metal that comes out of the engine
Mhm.
and connects with the propeller, it was broke. I think he hit the bottom. So I was like, no, 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 I couldn't believe it. I said, no, I can't believe it. Get my pro. I had this GoPro. Get my pro, and it was night. The water was dirt, full of trash. It was like a nightmare. And then the guy came back with the GoPro, and I watched it, and there was this huge piece of metal snapped, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, what I'm going to do? Like, I can't believe it. I left my comfortable life. That was the only moment I was like, man, I think I did the wrong time. I was like, I sleep the whole night. It was one of these moments where it was a weird night. I couldn't believe it. And then in the next morning, I woke up, and so there was a big procedure. They need to see how big was the shaft, to see if the guys had on the mechanic, like the engine, where they were gonna fix it and everything. So I was through the whole day dealing with the guys asking me, so tonight we're going to leave, right? Tonight we're going to leave. And I was like, yeah, we're going to. But they need to fix until like 2 o'clock, because the boat needs to go to open ocean for them to jump in the water and fix the thing. And then at the end of the day, that come this news that, it's not going to make it. We
Oh
cannot make
my God.
it today. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then Lady, that is a lady that helped us a lot, that worked for our company as well, she said, well, because the big swell was already losing energy, she said, maybe we can talk with the captain, and you guys can, that trip was unbelievable. You can fix in Mentawai. There is a possibility. The guys will bring the whole shaft and they fix it. And then was what happened. The captain accepted for us to go with just one propeller, one engine, and we were going to stay 2 days with just one engine, and then the guys will get there with the shaft and fix it. So then we served 2 days, and then we went. And there was this funny situation where we were heading to this other harbor in Mentawai, Tuapeja, which is the capital of Mentawai. And then the waves were there is a moment where the waves were kind of like not big, crazy big, but they get the boat in a way where
Oh my God.
rocks a lot, and a lot of people start to go bad, and one guy start to vomit, saying that he was going to die, and then another guy, because the boat was moving, he hit the fridge and broke the fridge door. That was like a glass fridge. He broke, and then it was a nightmare. And then we fixed it. It was unbelievable. And at the end of the trip, this captain, that he wasn't our original captain, but our captain was sick, so he was just for that trip. And then he so it was the last night of the trip, sunset, everybody was happy. We were going to sleep, surf the next day, and then leave to Padang. It was the end of the trip. So he started to move the boat in a channel in Lance's right, that is kind of like a narrow channel. It's the place where you can stay closer in the whole Mentawai, is where you get closer to the wave. It's really cool to watch. But then he did like a wrong move, and he started to move the boat like backwards. And so we were taking shower at the back of the boat, and we start to see the reef, and he was going to hit the reef. So one guy ran to the captain and said, "Go, go, go, go straight, go. Put all the energy." And then like we could make it, like didn't hit the reef, but it was another situation at that trip, and that was only the first trip, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I will make for at the end of our first season. But yeah, but then it was weird because all this happened in the first trip, and then after that it was all good. Looks like I don't know, some kind of probation, like some kind of I don't know the word in English, but it's like a test.
Yeah, to see how bad could it be.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, other stuff happened during these 2 seasons, but this trip was full of like real crazy situations.
That's wild. So when the guests book, when somebody books like a tour and something like that happens, how do you handle that? Like, what does that look like? Do you tell them ahead of time, like, okay, it's a boat trip, like anything can happen, or do people have a certain expectation?
It's this part of expectation is really hard because we have mainly Brazilians guests, and like in Brazil, the surf culture there, like for us, this trip is, I think, all over the world, but I don't know, in Brazil, it's really something that people live to come to Men's on a boat. So it's something that they get, like they arrive with full of energy and expectation and asking many things. So it's kind of like it's a little bit uncomfortable for some situations to deal with all that. And we already had some things like, for example, the boat couldn't go out because actually this is not something that we can control. They just close the harbor because if there is a big storm, if the swell is too big, they simply won't allow you to go out. This happened with us once, but then people can understand. And then another time we need to fix the boat, like the engine, and we have like a short time to do everything because one trip it's start at the end of one day. So we travel during the night. The longest navigation is doing, we do it at night. So then we spend like 11 days surfing, and then the last night we are coming back. And after that, we have only 2 days to fix everything. And many things can broke during a trip, you know, like an AC or like toilet or the engine. So, you know, there is, so we have 2 days to fix it. And then there was this trip that we left like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we need 12 hours for the crossing. So people wake up and we are still navigating. So we need to explain them that this is the kind of thing that can happen. But yeah, and then the other funny thing that happened is like there is some people that they jump into the boat and they look like kids that they ask about everything, everything you can imagine. There was this one situation, there was the extreme of it, that the guy, it started to rain. So the guy turned out, like, he turned to my business partner, Gustavo, and asked, hey, what time it's going to stop raining? And we were like, what the, like, what are you talking about? What are you saying, man? And this same guy, he was a doctor, and he asked me what he should do because he had sore um, shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and he said, what kind of medicine should I take? And I was like, I think you're more able than I because you're a doctor, man. I just can advise you to take like a, you know, something to relax your muscles, but maybe you can, you know. But yeah, so I think because they are too excited, or because it's such a different word for most of people. There is a lot of people that never got into a boat, like a big boat like that. You know, the boat has like 74 feet, so they kind of lose themselves in all that energy and all that expectation. They look like real kids, but at the same time, the trip itself is, for me, I did a lot of trips in my life and I never had an experience so intense on surf, because every morning you will wake up and you are right in front of a wave, because like the boat we don't anchor at night close to the waves, but like 4:30 we departure, and then it's like 6 o'clock, it's dawn, and we are already in front of the wave at the channel. So you wake up and you're looking surf, and then you eat breakfast and you're looking waves, and then you jump in the water and you surf, you come back and your friends are still surfing. Oh, it's good. Oh, look, that wave. Oh, maybe I'm coming back. And then you surf again, and then you come back, and then you chill out at the, like you're watching TV at the room, you know, the living room that we have. But then you look to the window, waves, you know, I'm going now. And we have this dinghy, so we take people to the lineup, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
basically don't paddle. You just paddle from your wave to back to the lineup, but then you wave with your board, we pick you up and come back to the boat. So it's kind of like easy life, but it's so intense. It's the most intense experience that I ever had. And when I was a guest, and still this day, I'm still surfing a lot. And so this is really cool because people surf their brains out, they get so. And at night we have the footage or the pictures, and then we are at the room, and then we put on the screen on the TV, and then people are watching and laughing and talking about waves and seeing where they can improve. And then the next morning they're gonna try to do it better. So this is really, really cool to see. It's really like gives me a lot of fulfillment to be able to give this opportunity to people, because for me, I still living the dream in all the trips, all the good sessions. For me, is still something that I'm really enjoying. I never get tired of surf. So once you are working with that and you are like giving people the opportunity to live that thing too, it's really nice. That that is the best thing beside the surf itself. Because you have people that come out of the water and hugs you and, man, this is the best day of my life, or, oh, I got the wave of my life. So it's really cool. And we at our boat, we really like to help them to surf better or to understand better what they are doing in a good and a bad way. And like we push them. Like Gustavo is it's the partner that he shoots from the channel most of the time, and he's the one that sometimes he realized that people are not so like confident or something, and he starts to go, just go, paddle harder. So this is really hard. This is really nice. This is really cool to to push them and then see they overcoming their fears, or they getting better at surf. So this part is really, really amazing, and I think what makes people come back as well, or talk with friends, you know, really cool.
That's awesome. It sounds like an absolute dream. How do you decide that, okay, like my skill level is good enough that I'm going to spend the money and go on the boat trip? And do you ever have people on the trips where it's like maybe they shouldn't, their level's not high enough to be there?
Yeah, actually, so we are talking about Brazilians that we don't have uh, really good waves in Brazil. You
Mhm.
it's really impressive about how Medina and Italo and Felipe, how they develop themselves so good. Most of them come from Brazil, and in Brazil we have a few reefs, but as I come from the south, a lot of people our network, like from friends and everything, they come from the south and they are not so experienced with reefs. And so I think the main concern is with the reef. People are always asking about how it is, how deep is, or how should they fall, or what should they do if they fall. Should they wear booties or not? This kind of thing. But once I always try to make people comfortable with that, because you don't hit the reef every time you fall. It's
Mhm.
every wave. And then so once they are more comfortable with that, even people that don't have a high skills level for surf big waves or big barrels, they can like overcome themselves and surf a proper wave or a big day or a good barrel. So I think this is something that I always talk to them at the meeting that we have in the beginning of the trip, that this is something that really and sometimes you have people with skills, people that knows how to surf, but they are so like they keep thinking about that they are not able to surf. So I always try to make them comfortable, like make them calm and try to show them that it's not that bad and they can risk a little bit, so they will be able to enjoy more. And we like a lot to push people, so like we always try to tell them that sometimes they know that they are not there to surf like big days, or they don't have like a excellent skills, or they are not used with this that kind of waves. But the trips are done in almost 2 weeks, because it's the bigger the chances for us to get at least one, not big swell, but a decent swell. So we always try to tell them that the swell won't last too long, but we can do it. Like, we will try to be at the best spot at that day. And sometimes some people, they don't surf, or they go and stay on the shoulder to get used, but just to experience that situation, like Lance is right with like 6 foot, or a good day at Kandui, or like macaronis on the proper day. It's something that really changes your reference about surfing, especially for people that are used with beach breaks, like cross shore, onshore winds, and like two, like chest high, shoulder high waves. So this is something that sometimes the, they are not surfing, they are not like getting the best waves of their lives at that day, but just the fact that they are experiencing that thing, and they're watching, they're participating with that thing, proof. Next time, so we surf one day with 6 foot. When the waves goes to 4 foot, they are really comfortable. They are pulling in, they're risking turns. So yeah, this is something that it happens a lot, and is really cool to see as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like the dream to sleep on a boat next to perfect waves. It's like exactly what every surf adventure sounds like, It should be that way.
And it's a easy life, when you come out of the dinghy, when you're coming from the session, you just hand your board to someone from the staff, from the crew, and they will, like, they're gonna put your board, they're gonna keep it on the right spot. You just need to come out of the water, take a shower, and then the food is on the table. And then you go to the living room with AC and watch a movie, or play some PlayStation, and then a few hours later you are back on on the water. So it's kind of like a dream, yeah. Especially this day where people are living a super stressful lives, and like just dreaming about having a time for themselves and doing what they love most. So yeah, I would say it's a dream. Yeah, definitely.
Do people typically come with their boards, or do you guys apply boards, or how does that usually work?
No, they come with their boards. We have a lot of space for boards, and they sometimes they ask us about what kind of board they should bring, uh, be- because again, they are not used with reefs. They don't know how. Sometimes they don't know how big the waves will be, and they are able to surf or not. So we always advise them about boards. And I think the main thing, Gustavo always talk with people about that, is a good paddle power, like to be able to get into the wave, because once you are used, you already know how the wave breaks in a reef, and you put yourself on the right spot. But if you are not used, um, sometimes you go a little bit to the shoulder, and the wave is not so powerful there. Or sometimes if you don't have the paddle power, you get like stuck into the lip, and then it's one of the worst wipeouts you can get. So yeah, they they ask about boards, and then during the trip they ask a lot about what board should I bring, what kind of pins should I use, and yeah, and then leashes as well. So we try to help with everything because our goal is to make them happy and make the experience as best as possible, you know.
Hmm. So with leashes, do you recommend like the quick release ones? Like, is it best when you're wiping out on reef to get rid of your board, or do you need your board to get back out?
uh, I don't, yeah, I just don't like too thin reef leash because they snap easily and they
Hmm.
stretch too much. I prefer, even if it's a little bit longer but a little bit thicker, because then you are able to bring your board back to you faster. And then like I I tell them about like when you are really, because of course the waves are different, but first thing I always advise to not go all the way to the end of the wave, because most of the time the last section are really shallow and sometimes it becomes like a closeout. And the other thing is like if you fall on the takeoff, let let the wave brings you like away from the impact zone a bit, but then try to then the whole water will bring you to the channel like naturally, but make an effort to go to the channel instead of trying to
Go
face the waves,
in.
because this is something that you are used to do on beach breaks.
Hmm.
If you are aware that you go like on that direction, not like this, it saves you from a lot of problems, because once you get dragged into the reef, as much as longer as you are there, drier the reef will become. And the other thing is like do not go like on deep duck divings, you know. Sometimes like if I feel that I'm really on a shallow place from the reef, I just paddle straight to the foam and like to the white water that is coming and just push like without even duck diving, because we had people that hurt the fingers or snap
Mm.
broke like fins. Like, you know, you need to be a little bit aware of that.
Because it's so shallow.
Yeah, because it's shallow.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I realize that happens a lot with us like Brazilians that are used with sandbars, that is people they when you're at the sandbar, at least with me was like this. Whenever I fall, I used to put my feet on the ground, you know, on the sand, and then push myself up. And this is something that you cannot do it on a reef, you know. You should avoid as much as possible to touch the reef. So I always tell people like once you fall, like lift your legs and try to not touch the reef. Like I said, that is the jellyfish strategy. You become a jellyfish, float, you know. You
Yeah.
you will be light, and then you once you grab your board, paddle as fast as possible towards the channel. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so interesting because I would imagine like we're in Florida, so we're surfing. It's only beach break here, and
Where
but it,
where
we're in Lake Worth. It's outside of West Palm Beach. It's like an hour north of Miami.
okay.
Yeah, so we're what?
There is some swells there now with the storm season.
Yeah, yeah. There's a pretty good one starting at the end of this week for like 15 days. So this is like hurricane season. Um,
Yeah, I
and
saw some news about Paulette storm, hurricane.
yeah, it didn't hit us. There was
New
only
York
one.
is really good. New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. So this is our first season. Like this is our first year living here in Florida. So this is our first hurricane season. And um the first hurricane that hit us, which it nothing happened basically except for really good waves. They closed the beaches, and I didn't know that that meant that you just surf in a different spot. I thought it just meant like you don't surf. And so I my friends were at the beach that don't surf, and they were like, "Oh, it looks pretty good. Shouldn't you be out there?" And I'm like, "Oh, the beaches are closed." They said, "Oh no, that just means you got to go from the different parking lot, and you walk down." So they
Ah,
like,
hey.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, it's like kind of that thing where they close it so that um the people who aren't, I don't know, skilled or whatever, they won't go in the water, like tourists and different people like that. But I was also a little like nervous about hurricane swell just because it can be so unpredictable and I'm still like learning the spot. So I was a little whatever, but this weekend should be really good. So,
That's good to know. Yeah, here the season is already finishing, so I think this weekend we will have a post. But yeah, you could notice that the the whole ocean is more easy right now.
hmm
But it was
so,
a good.
so did you miss most of the season because of coronavirus with your trips, or how did that work?
No, we missed the whole season. I didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't this year.
Okay.
So we were doing like a big renovation at the boat. We started in January, like
hmm
January we start, and then I land in. I was in Australia for a while, like, and then I came early February, and then I went March 12, if I'm not wrong. It was the first death case of corona in Indo, which was
hmm
in Bali, like, officially. And then it was when everything started to like escalate. Like people start to cancel trip. Like we luckily postponed the whole schedule to 2021, and then yeah, and then we stopped the renovations because we need to save money. We didn't know what was going to happen. And yeah, we just paying the crew for the whole season. And yeah, and the boat is there. It's stopped. We turn on the engine like 3 times a week. Yeah, we couldn't make anything. And for me, it was a crazy experience because then I went to Talos with a friend that he was managing a resort there, which is like North Sumatra. And then I was stuck there because the Indo closed the domestic flights. I was living at this island, like at this resort that was closed without too much access to internet, or we didn't have like water or electricity most of part of the day, only at night. And we were living like three friends, and then three other friends were at a boat in front of us. They used to anchor right in front of the resort, and two local guys that work at the resort. And so we were there for 4 months for 4 months as a family, completely isolated. And we couldn't, even if we wanted, we couldn't go back. We couldn't go back to Bali. We couldn't go back to the Sumatra or whatever. The whole archipelago was closed. It was locked down. In the beginning, they were not allowing us to surf, but then there was no corona. It was a place where it was corona free. There was no cases of corona. I don't know for now, but at that time. And then we start to surf like April, mid-April, and there is a lot of resorts in this area. So it was just the surf guides and the managers and the owners of the resort. So we would surf many times with like 3, 4 guys in the water.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was really, really cool. And
So you were
unbelievable.
staying on the resort was empty.
Yeah. When I was there for shooting some footage and some pictures doing yoga because this friend wants to advertise the resort. And there was a few guests, and they left before the trip finished because one of them was like from US, and the US started to send messages to citizens
Mm-hmm.
saying, the country will shut down and close, come back. And then she left and the other person left. So we were there in the beginning with more friends, and then some other friends left as well, and we were just the three of us. And it was such a cool experience in my life, like many days of like meditation and like silence, and we were just living a super outside life with not so many resources, but enjoying the whole thing, like the stars and the sun rising, the sunset, diving, and surfing a lot and cooking a lot. We had like we were super short in options of food, and but we use a lot of creativity. And at the end of the whole thing, really crazy stuff happened because the guys from the boat, they left. They sailed to Mentawai, and then one of the guys started to feel really sick. And because there was a moment where, so we were three in land, three on boat, and two other friends in south of the Talos, and then they went to see us in the north. So there was this one night where all of us, the 8 guys, were there. And then when they left to Bentawi and the captain of the boat, Guto, started to feel sick, at the same time, one of the guys from the south started to feel sick. And then this guy went to the hospital, and Guto went to the hospital in Mentawai, and he tested, and there was nothing, no malaria, no nothing. And the other guy tested positive to malaria. And then he flew to Padang, that is the main city where all the boats departure. And then Guto went there too, but then Guto passed away. He died
Whoa.
of malaria. And then we left and we went to Padang. The three friends that was still there, we went to Padang to help to give some support for the guys. So the guy from the south, Bruno, was still in the hospital. He wasn't healed, completely healed at that moment. So we went there, and then Michel, that was the manager of the resort, he was there for like 4 days or so, and then he got malaria too. He got the malaria. Actually, they had already, but then malaria can get. I heard about 3 months, and then another person talked about 1 year, but it stays on your liver, and once your immune system goes down, it comes out and start to kind of like destroy your blood. Your hemoglobins start to destroy your hemoglobins. And it was a crazy time. It was a crazy, after like this dream season, all this happened. It was crazy. There was a moment I thought that we were gonna lost Michel because he was like, yeah, it was really sad. And the doctors wasn't treating properly. Hadn't at that time, there was no machine like uh, checking his blood oxygenation. And anyway, it was crazy. I remember this one day that I went to the hospital and he was like white. It's like, yeah, it was an ugly thing. But then after that, he started to get better, and eventually he was healed. Yeah,
So malaria comes from mosquitoes, right?
yeah, malaria and dengue, and
Okay.
no cure. So what happened was like the 3 guys that got malaria. They were the 3 ones that at that night that everybody was together. The 8 people were together. Were three persons who spent almost the whole night outside drinking. They went to sleep late, and two of them, Guto and Bruno, they slept in the living room, kind of like the restaurant has the living room with some couch, like some sofa. So they slept there. They was just like drunk or something, and they slept there without
outside.
mosquito. We think that all three got malaria at the same night.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was scary. Like, yeah, it was, jeez, from like heaven to hell, you know, the whole thing.
So when did you get back to where you're at now?
Yeah, I'm in Bali now. So then, because before this happened, me and Michelle, we were talking already because I think it was mid-June. They start to operate domestic flights again. And then we talk, oh, let's go Bali just for a while, just to, you know, change and be at the civilization for a bit. And then this happened. And then Michelle came back to Bali. And I stayed with the guys on the boat for 2 more weeks, and then I came back. I came back in early August, like 5th of August, I think. It's almost 2 months here back.
And so will you stay there and then wait for next year's season?
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Actually, now I have a place here. I have a home. I share a home with a friend, with Gustavo. And yeah, we rent this place, and like I moved, you know, once we rented last year. I moved. I brought all my, not everything that I have, but like all my gears, surf gears, like all my wetsuits are here, all my boards. I have two boards still in Biraquiara at my beach house. A lot of, I don't know, most of my clothes. Yeah, I moved to Bali, so
Yeah.
I don't leave. And I would like to visit my parents, but Brazil, it's not so good to go, and I don't want to be stuck in Brazil and don't make it back to Bali, you know, or to Indo. I want to be here for the next season.
So right now, is Indo letting tourists in at all, or no? It's completely shut still.
No, it was shut, but then Cali came and everybody started to came. But actually, it's a joke, but it's a little bit true. But they figure out a way of bringing people in. You know, I think the government did it to make some money because, like, especially Bali is having a really hard time with uh, with zero tourists here, and they did this wrong move. Like it was, I think it was early. No, it was late July, and they released a new regulation saying that people that were with like free visa or exception visa, there is another cases, which was mine, they should leave the country until I think 13th of August or something. And then a lot of people got scared and left. From what I heard, Bali at that moment had 7,000 tourists, and it went to like 3,000, 4,000. Half of it, half of the tourists left, and which was a little bit like a wrong move from the government because people were here spending money, you know. So I think now they are making, like, they create some gap. I think some, probably some uh, gaps on the laws, and then people coming in. I know that they need to do like 2 corona tests and everything, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's good for people to come and spend some time and some money here. But one thing that happened was like when the government first said that in September 11th, which was a weird day, you know,
Yeah.
they said that they were going to open Bali. it was weird because it wasn't the whole country, it was Bali, you
Mm.
know, because the governor of Bali wanted. Anyway, then they decided that it wasn't going to happen, and they were going to stimulate the the local tourism. So they're gonna bring more people and like like push people to travel inside of Indo. And what happened was that the number of cases increased a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So Jakarta now is in lockdown. There is another few other spots on lockdown. And Bali, they were talking about a month of lockdown. Didn't happen yet, but I don't know. Yeah,
It's such
it,
it's
it's
like the craziest time.
yeah, the craziest time ever. And it's weird because I didn't leave the thing, you know, I didn't leave the lockdown. Like I was in lockdown, I was really in lockdown, but I didn't see like people using masks, people
Mm-hmm.
scared, like empty markets. Actually, the place that I was, it was no market. You know, it's just like small, you know. But in there, people weren't using masks. They were not even talking about, you know. And then Bali, it's you get to see like people are using masks the whole time, and but it's not like a crazy thing. People are not scared. People are not, I don't know, violent about anything. Because Brazil had some situations, and I heard U.S. there is kind of like a war, including with the thing about the guy that killed the police officer, all that thing in the middle of the Corona
Yeah,
crisis. Yeah, I have some friends from New York, and the
it's
one,
pretty wild. It's
yeah,
pretty wild over here right now.
yeah, he texted me one day. He said Manhattan is a war zone, and I
Oh
was like,
yeah, I wouldn't be in New York right
yeah,
now.
we live in Long Island, but
Uh,
they can, you know, they know how things are there.
yeah,
And
it's pretty it's weird here to have two horrible situations going on like at the same time, you know, because everybody's already scared because of corona and then you have this other kind of like fear from people. So it's been pretty weird. We luckily live in a pretty small city, so there hasn't really been anything like that, you know, going
yeah,
on. And here it's pretty chill. It's not everywhere in the States that's like that. So where we're at, it's pretty chill.
yeah, I know there is a few spots. I like my friend. I have a good friend from Italy. She lives in Rome, and she spent 90 days in lockdown. 90. She was only allowed to go market, and if had like a healthy problem, uh, to the drugstore, to the pharmacy.
Hmm.
Yeah, jeez, that's crazy.
It is crazy, and I think it's also been really interesting to be somebody who has traveled. Like I think it's one thing for people who like they're in their own country and this is the lockdown that they're experiencing. But then you hear stories from other people, you know, like you hear stories from Australia, and it's just like so gnarly there, very, very strict lockdown. Then you hear like, you know, my friend from Denmark, it's like no one's even wearing masks there at all. So it's everybody's dealing with it in such a
Yeah,
different way. It's kind of
yeah,
interesting to see that.
yeah, that's true. I think I think like Italy now is kind of like, from what I heard, kind of like normal life almost. And
Hmm.
I'm outside as well. Like Sydney is really good. And then I have a friend from Melbourne, and he said it's a mess. The whole state of Victoria is in lockdown, and I think it just went to 2 or 3 weeks, or they are still in lockdown. Yeah, I hope this vaccine comes, or I don't know. I hope because young people get infected and sometimes they don't feel nothing at all, and so I think eventually everybody will get it, and yeah, the problem is with old people, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's how it is here too, because we're in Florida and all of the old people from the north buy homes in Florida to retire.
Okay.
So it was spreading. They have communities in Florida where it's only 55 years old and up. So no young people can live in there.
No,
Seriously. Yeah. Yeah,
that's
so it's yeah, so it's
don't
like,
have
well,
they don't want contact with the youth.
that's right. Well, and I mean, okay, so I get it a little bit, right? So, you worked your whole life in, say, Michigan, which is where I'm from, and you did all the winters and all that stuff, and you saved your money. And when you're done working, you want to go live in the sun and you want to just chill. You don't want to hear screaming kids. You don't want to whatever. You don't want to hear crazy parties from like, you know,
Yeah.
30-year-olds or whatever. You just want your peace and quiet. So that I guess it makes sense, but now it just seems like a horrible idea because
Yeah, if one person gets
mhm,
it goes all the community.
and they're like totally closed communities, right? So they build these, and I've never seen anything like it anywhere else. They kind of have something like it in Arizona, but when we moved here, we were buying stuff for our new house, and people are selling stuff on Craigslist, and you go into these communities and they're fully gated. So some developer will buy like, I don't know, 50 acres or whatever, and they'll fence the whole thing. And there's like three different entrances with guards, and there's like a community pool, a community center, but all the houses are only 55 and up. So you think until they close like the community pools eventually and all that stuff, but just think about how much of it was spreading before those things closed down, and they're
Yeah,
everywhere in Florida.
it's a
Yeah.
super close. Like they lived so close inside of one place that it's just need one person and the
Mhm.
whole community will be infected.
Yep. Yeah,
It's
so that's I
a
mean,
risky, right?
sorry?
It's a risky group.
Yeah, it is a risky group. It's kind of why Florida was hit pretty hard, but now I think the herd immunity is kind of starting to kick in because it spread here really fast. So it kind of like came through really quick. There was a lot of deaths in the beginning, but now the cases are higher because more people are getting tested, but the death is pretty low. Like it's way less people are dying here, so that's good. They started opening up restaurants and bars and gyms and all of that stuff. Certain places you need to wear a mask still, but um it's starting to get a little bit back to normal here.
Oh, like that.
Yeah, super glad. The beaches were closed too.
What?
The beaches were closed for a while.
Yeah, yeah. Here they close even Bali. It was a little bit. It was weird. From what I heard, that like local people were still surfing, but bules couldn't surf. Like the people from outside couldn't surf and couldn't go to the beach and anything. But I think to be on a place with like uh, more warm weather, it helps
Mhm.
us.
Yeah, I think so too. I heard something about like air conditioning that it like moves. So like in the big apartment complexes that are all using the same like air
Uh,
conditioning thing.
hmm, yeah, I don't know what to. I
It's crazy.
thought. Yeah, Corona.
So I have three last questions for you
Yeah.
before we wrap it up. So, what is the weirdest wave that you've ever surfed?
Jeez. Weirdest way? You mean the place itself?
Or whatever. The place, the wave.
Mm. Let me just try to figure out, remember something that is really weird. Like there was weirdest wave.
This is always the hardest question.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like one thing that it wasn't that weird, but like two situations that I would put in this. It was when I was in Italy for a while because I have an Italian family. I was getting my citizenship there, and then I surfed in Italy in Mediterranean, which was like it wasn't weird, it was unexpected. And then the other thing that once happened with me was in Fernando de Noronha. It's an island in Brazil and it's super protected. So there was this, I don't know how you call when there was a lot of fishes together.
Oh, a school.
What?
A school. A school of fish.
So they are all together like tie, and so
Uh-huh.
I the wave, and the whole wave was the wall of the wave was just fishes. They were
Ah,
like swimming. So it wasn't like a wall of water, it was a wall of fish.
fish.
Yeah, and now I remember, like, actually in Tahiti, in one of my last days, the water was so bright, and there was no wind. It was so glass that I got this wave, and it was like, so I couldn't see the wave. I just
Ah.
saw that something was moving, but looks like glass moving. I couldn't see where was the bottom, where was the lip, where was the curve of the wave. It was just like I could see only the reef with different perspective. It was weird. It looks like lenses, different lenses.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that was one of the weirdest waves, probably.
That's a good one. That's a good one. What was your biggest oh shit moment while surfing?
Ocean? Right?
Oh
You mean?
shit. Like, oh shit. Like a scary moment.
Oh shit! Fuck! I remember this one. Oh shit! Jeez, it was a good one. So there was this swell in 2018 here in Indo that was a lot of hype in that swell. Probably you have seen that footage from the boat being like demolished, like the waves smashing the boat in Nias.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Mentawai, and then we navigate to the playground area, which is on the north. It's the last big island is Siberut, and on the south of it, people call like playground area where is Kandui. So people were thinking that Kandui would be really good. Kandui holds a lot of swell, but then the winds were weird. Anyway, like there was a lot of storm during the day, and then this one wave start to like work properly, like with offshore winds, and it's a wave that usually people learn how to surf, and it was like, I don't know, 10, 12 foot, I don't know, like barreling like chop, like really like proper barrels. Lucas Chianca, Brazilian guy, like big wave, he was there. He was one. I think he was the first one to jump in the water, and then I jumped in the water too. And then I went to change my board. I was in a 6.0, and then I got a biggest board that I have. It was a 6.3. I went back, and it was like six guys in the water. So that wave in front is in front of an island, and at you have a big channel, and at the other side there is that wave called Rifles. So Rifles was too big, and this channel, it was from some people that uh, have been working there for a long time. They say that it was the first time that the channel was closed. So there was a few sets that break and close the channel, and we were like watching the channel the waves breaking the channel, and somehow the swell kind of like swing to this reef where we were, and then so after the wave breaks, we could see it coming, and then starting to suck water, and then we were at the right spot. So it was the end of the day when the waves started to work. It was like around 3 o'clock. I couldn't surf. I didn't surf too many waves. I surfed two bad waves, and we were waiting. And then I remember someone said, "Oh, it's already going down, right?" And and people were like, "Yeah, I think. Stop for a while." And then we saw this one wave that didn't break in the channel, but somehow swang to the reef, and I remember to watch. I get
Get
some
goosebumps.
because I remember to watch and see the wave. It's the wave itself simply stop at the horizon, like really far from us, and start to drain water, like sucking water and water, and everybody start to paddle a lot, paddle, 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 and I remember that wave like broke. I don't know how close to me. I remember to think the worst nightmare in surf is happening. My worst nightmare, which is a wave break top to bottom in front of me. It was right in front of me. I was like, and in front of most of the guys as well. Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I just went down and got like super pounded. For you to have an idea, my board snapped. My leash was so like stretched. I couldn't bring my board back. When it came, the fins were snapped too. It broke the fin. Just the fin box came like and broke. And then I got the second one and the third one, and I was super scared because I didn't want to lose my board and my fins actually. So I wasn't I kept the lead. I worst. And there was this guy with the jet ski. I started to yell to see if he could come and get me, and he started to get some other guys, some like pro surfers. And I was like, I need to deal with this by myself. So I took each, and I was at the inside, and then I got the first one, and then I got the second one, and before the third one, I remember to hear people screaming like "you wow!" So I was like, "Fuck, the next one will be big." And I remember Nick Vonrup, the Portuguese surfer. When I paddled towards the third one that I got in my head on the inside, he was coming in this big one. I think he did like a toe in. So at this moment, I could, because the wave was a little bit bigger than the other one, so it didn't hit the inside properly. So I could swim to the channel, and then I saved myself. And yeah, it was really, I was really frustrated because I couldn't surf anything, but I was happy because I was like, oh yeah, I was able at least to save myself.
Yeah.
There was another situation that I remember at Pipeline, but maybe for another time. But it was kind of like the same thing, but it was, I don't know if I have time, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
kind of like that too. Yeah, I was like, I was so one of my dream was to spend the whole season in Hawaii, and then 2016-17 I went there and spent 5 months. So the first big swell of the season was a Christmas Day, and in Pipeline you see the guys, the good guys and the locals, they stay in one place, and all the rest of the crowd is a little bit underneath them. And I saw this big set coming, and we, from normal people, we start to run, like paddle, because there was a big amount of white water coming. And I look at the left, and I saw like Kelly and John and Cora Rothman, Jamie O'Brien, they were just sitting. So I was like, man, they sit on a different spot in the lineup. So I want to see how they see the wave. So next swell, it was a big one with a lot of energy. I went surf a little bit with the crowd, and then it was Nathan Florence and another guy. And I was like, I'm going to sit down underneath them. So I sat there. The moment that I sat there, this big set came like northwest with a lot of like coming from the second reef with a lot of white water. And I was like, no way. So he started to paddle and then he duck dive and I was like, okay, duck dive and duck dive. And the first duck dive, he was already like in the beginning, he was like 3 meters in front of me. The first duck dive, he was already 10. The second one, he was already 20. The third one, I ditched my board, and then the leash, like was so stretched that I was like, I need to take the leash off. And then the fourth snapped my leash, and the fifth wave, I was at the shore break of 8 foot wave pipeline.
Fuck.
That just like explode right in front of me and like pounded me a lot. And I remember when I popped up, I was like so drained of energy that I was like, I'm gonna raise my hand, for the lifeguards to help me. And then I looked at the lifeguards at the channel and I said, no, now you're gonna deal with this. You're gonna hold yourself, just breathe and keep yourself calm. You're gonna do it. And then the sixth wave, like just again on the shore break, and then the seventh wave, and was just white water. I think I got like 12 waves. At the end, I was just close. I was like, the last wave, I was like at the shore, at the sand. I was just like almost like crawling. I was no energy. It was, yeah, that wave was a oh shit moment, definitely.
That's well, now you know why those guys sit there because they can duck dive 3 meters at a time, right? They can get.
Yeah. It's not coincidence that they got the best waves.
Fuck, that's
Yeah.
so gnarly. My last question for you is what is next for you?
What is next
Mm-hmm.
in my life or in surf or
Both.
well, what is next? I think the first is like so the end of my first season as surf guide, surfing a lot. I missed a lot to teach yoga. I missed to help and to support and to give people tools for them to live better in a broader way, because as surf guide I was happy because I was giving happiness to people in a different way from what I was doing for my whole life. But and then I start to think about how could I integrate the both things. So this year when I arrived in Bali, I have some former students of myself. They were like all the time like pushing me to come back to classes because I had like a big story about. Then I stopped teaching when I left my school, and then I eventually, as I was here with good Wi-Fi, I started to teach again, and I have been doing online classes with them, and it's been like really, really good. Really, like I feel so happy, so fulfilled about it. So the next movement, it will be really to integrate the both things, because now I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a regular season. That's why I'm teaching so much. So I want to be able to do both things and to create something inside yoga that integrates what the tradition of yoga has and with the science, and what the science already found out that is good, that works. I
Mm-hmm.
have doing this and some research and putting some pieces together to make it, and and then establish myself like as a really like Bali resident with my own place, and make some like money with my company here, because we couldn't actually make money with the surf charter yet. And then so this is like the project at a personal level. And then as a surfer, I was talking with Diego, my friend. He was here, my business partner. That I want to be able to surf like 8 foot waves, barreling like slabby waves, more consistent and especially more comfortable in a
Mm-hmm.
way that day I surf like 6 foot or 5 to 6, 5 to 8, but I want to surf 8 to plus like that. Especially at the grower, which is a wave that always challenged me. I couldn't get anything good there so far in my life, and I wanted and be able to surf again both chopo and pipeline. Yeah, this is the next. I think this is the next goals.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad we were finally able to do this.
Yeah, me too. It was cool. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, same. You have been a very interesting life you've led, I think.
Yeah, yeah. 3 years, crazy, crazy things happen. There's even more stories, but I think I would spend too much time talking about it.
And that was episode 57. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. We will leave information about Lucas and the boat trips and the yoga that he's doing in the description below. All really great stuff. And of course, we will see you next Monday with another episode. Thanks, guys.